Hello there. Come on in and get cozy. I'm your host, and yes, I happen to be a wonderfully animated papercraft cat. And as anyone with a cat knows, we firmly rule the house, right? Well, today I want to invite you on a warm little journey into my feline mind for this explainer. We're going to explore the fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling mystery of free will. You've all seen me do it. I lock eyes with my human, I slowly, deliberately extend a paw, and boop! I tip their absolute favorite coffee cup right off the edge of the table. But here's the real question. Did I consciously choose to do that in that exact moment? Or did my brain's biochemical reflexes decide first, leaving me to just, act out a pre-written script? It really challenges everything we assume about conscious choices. To understand just how much biology pulls our strings, let's look at a wild study from 2011 involving Israeli parole boards. Researchers found that a judge's decision to grant parole wasn't really based on the severity of the crime, but rather on how hungry the judge was. Seriously. Just after a meal, approval rates were up at 65%, but right before lunch, when they were fasting, that rate plummeted to nearly zero. It turns out humans are just like my grumpy neighbor Barnaby, the bulldog. When our bellies rumble, basic biology kind of dictates our choices. So, this brings us to a groundbreaking 1983 study by Benjamin Libet. He hooked subjects up to brain monitors and basically told them, hey, just flick your wrists whenever you feel like it. Here is the crazy part. The brain's readiness potential, that's the signal to move, fired at negative 550 milliseconds. But the subjects only actually felt the conscious desire to move at negative 200 milliseconds. The physical action itself, that happened right at zero. Think about what that means. The brain's electrical signal happens a full 300 milliseconds before the conscious decision is even made. So my brain essentially initiated that paw swipe before I even realized I wanted to swipe. This really unsettling delay makes our whole feeling of conscious choice seem like, well, just a little sticky note our brain slaps on after a decision is already finalized in the background. And modern fMRI studies by neuroscientist John Dylan Haynes, they take this even further down the rabbit hole. By scanning brain activity, Haynes could predict which button a subject would press up to 10 full seconds before the person consciously realized they had made a choice. 10 seconds. There is no way around it. Our brains are doing the heavy lifting way before we're even remotely aware of it. So moving to section 2, are we biochemical puppets? Let's trace the invisible strings of our actions. As we unpack the determinism proposed by Stanford professor Robert Sapolsky, I really have to wonder if my infamous midnight zoomies are just the endpoint of uncontrollable factors. Sapolsky argues that every single action is part of a chain. Step 1 is the immediate neuron firing that makes me pounce. But wait, step 2, that firing was influenced by hormone levels from hours prior, and we can trace this all the way back to past environments, genetics, and even evolutionary ancestry. Every single layer is a cause, and every layer is a result. To highlight the sheer power of this biological script, just look at the famous Minnesota twin study. They looked at identical twins separated at birth and raised in completely different environments. Yet, they grew up to share shockingly similar traits, careers, and even super-specific nervous habits. It really shows that the genetic draft we cats, and you humans, of course, are handed heavily scripts our lives, pretty much regardless of where we grow up. And it's not just genetics, right? It's our physical brain structure, too. Consider the incredibly famous case of Phineas Gage. He was a foreman who literally survived an iron rod blasting right through his frontal lobe. He lived, miraculously, but the damage completely destroyed his self-control. This reliable, mild-mannered guy became totally impulsive and erratic. His personality was fundamentally changed. Honestly, it makes a little cat like me wonder, are we all just the sum of our physical parts? So if we truly are just biochemical puppets, we face a pretty massive societal question. Does personal responsibility even exist anymore? Like, if a bad person was simply programmed by their genetics and trauma to do bad things, shouldn't we just stop holding anyone accountable? It kind of feels like a really quick slide into dark nihilism, doesn't it? But Sapolsky argues something really beautiful here. Letting go of free will doesn't mean letting go of society, it just means changing our approach. Instead of punishing behavior solely to condemn a soul, we can look to systems like Norway's rehabilitative prisons. They focus on isolating the danger to protect society for sure, but they spend their actual energy treating and rehabilitating the root cause of the behavior. It's about compassion. And we've actually seen this kind of compassion evolve before. Back in 1943, doctors tragically blamed autism on what they called refrigerator mothers, mothers who allegedly just didn't love their children enough. It was a horrific, unfair burden of guilt placed on totally innocent women. It wasn't until neuroscience proved autism was an issue of brain development that society finally let go of the blame. Understanding the biology behind our actions genuinely creates a much more forgiving, gentle world. All right, let's move into our next section, the turning point of free will and discovering our veto power. So, modern neuroscience actually introduces a glimmer of hope that we aren't entirely on autopilot. Benjamin Libet himself discovered something he playfully called free won't. That's the conscious capacity to veto or suppress an initiated unconscious action. So, my brain might unconsciously generate the urge to absolutely shred the living room curtains, but once that urge bubbles up, I have a brief 200-millisecond window to slam on the brakes and cancel the strike. Furthermore, neuroscientist Aaron Scherger recently challenged Libet's original timeline. He suggests that this infamous readiness potential isn't a firm, unchangeable decision at all. Instead, it's really just background neural noise that slowly accumulates. Sometimes it crosses the threshold and results in an action, and sometimes it doesn't. So we aren't totally at the mercy of this brain activity after all. Philosopher Harry Frankfurt separates our desires so beautifully. He says my first-order desire is a raw instinct, like the aggressive urge to chase a laser pointer until I literally crash into a wall. But my second-order desire, that's my higher-level wish, to be a calm, sophisticated, well-behaved indoor cat. True freedom isn't just giving in to basic instincts. It's aligning my final actions with those higher values. Which brings us to our final section, mindfulness. Reclaiming psychological freedom, and building a real sense of agency. So how do I actually practice this? Well, mindfulness strengthens our free will. Step 1, observe the impulse rise. Oh, I see the coffee cup. Step 2, pause and detach. I recognize the urge to swat it, but I don't instantly react. I create a tiny gap. And step 3, from that quiet space, I consciously choose my response. I step back. It's all about training the brain to stop running on pure automatic pilot. This ties perfectly into the beautiful concept of witness consciousness, observing your thoughts rather than becoming them. When I sit quietly in a warm sunbeam, urges will naturally bubble up. I didn't ask for them, they just appear. But true freedom lies in creating space between that stimulus and my response. I simply watch the thought of knocking over the cup float by, and I just let it go. We may not completely control the neurochemical impulses that arise from our biology, our history, or our environment, but by practicing the pause, we claim the ultimate veto power. So I'll leave you with this. How will you use your newly reclaimed psychological freedom today? Take a breath, observe your inner impulses, and consciously choose your path. Thank you so much for joining me on this lovely little explainer journey today.
Knowledge grows through sharing. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe as we continue to grow together.